All right, from the city of Fairfax City, we are very grateful that Michelle Osis accepted our invitation. Michelle, welcome to my humble podcast.
Thanks, Claudia. Great to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Sure, no problem. Yeah. Michelle, let's go back to the beginning of your life. Were you born like in a musical family? How old were you when when perhaps you began taking piano lesson or guitar lesson, that sort of thing?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in a semi-musical family. I'll say semi because my dad isn't really a musician, like he kind of fumbles around the piano, but my mum is more of the musician. She plays piano by ear, and she's also a singer. And I guess I started playing piano when I was around 3 years old. And, my mum would stick me in front of the piano and I would just try and work out little songs and just, try and get my way around. And one day the ice cream truck went past and it was playing Greensleeves. And I started playing Greensleeves on the piano just by ear. And that was when my mum put me into piano lessons. And I did that for about 17 years. So I played a lot of classical music. And so I did that. And then from there, I decided I didn't really want to be a classical musician. I wanted to kind of explore different styles of music. So I joined a band, and which was like an indie rock band. And I played keys in the band, and we toured around Sydney. And so I did that for a little bit of time. And then when we split up, I was like, well, I still want to continue doing music. So I went to university. I wasn't sure that I wanted to get into film scoring at the time. The university was the thing that kind of, I went into that direction because we had some film students come to the university and they were looking for some composers to score their films. And I was like, oh, that sounds really interesting. So I put my hand up and I'm like, I'll do that. And I took on 3 short films and I actually scored 2 of them twice just because I loved the process. And I actually did wall-to-wall music because I just loved the process of scoring and just, there's something about scoring that I found to be, you have your limitations where when you're writing music for yourself, it's hard to set those limitations. So I had this world to work with and I was just like, this is what I'm supposed to do. So I did that. And then when I left university, I did my postgrad in film scoring, which was about a year, just part-time at AFTRS, so in Australia. So it's Australian Film, Television, Radio School. And then when I graduated, I was looking for, working on short films, and I applied for so many films, like just, free jobs just to kind of build up my CV. And there was quite a few, but it wasn't really paying. Obviously, it wasn't making much money at the time. So I then eventually started looking around for getting into commercial work. So I worked as a freelance writer for different music houses, writing commercials, and which was great. So that was a good experience. Like I really found that my production skills went up quite a bit from doing that type of work, and very quick turnaround because sometimes they'd be on the phone saying, we need this tomorrow. And I'm like, oh God. So I'd pull an all-nighter writing music on, different spots for like Ford and Telstra and McDonald's and those types of commercials. And then I think it was around 2013, I was really wanting to get more into film scoring, and I just found it really difficult to get any opportunities, and especially in Australia, because it was quite a small market back then. I think it's changed quite a bit now, but I was saying to my ex, because he's Canadian, I was like, why don't we explore Canada and look into moving to Canada? And he he was all for that idea as well, and he worked in VFX, and he was doing some work at a network doing promo videos, and he kind of wanted to get out of that too. And we're just like, you know what, let's just do this. If it doesn't work, we can always move back to Australia. So from there, so we moved to Canada, and it was kind of crazy because it was in the middle of summer in Australia, and I moved to Canada when it was minus 35 degrees. So I got off the plane and I was still wearing shorts and flip-flops and t-shirt, and I'm like, why is everyone wearing these massive jackets? But anyway, so we went to the store and bought all the gear, and the winter gear, and so yeah, that was a process as well, just to kind of get comfortable with the climate here, and then setting myself up as well, because I didn't have any equipment with me. I just had my computer, like my hard drives, and I had to build everything from the ground up. And I worked in a music house as a freelance writer. I was doing that for about 6 months, and then I got into the Canadian Film Centre's Slate Music Residency program, which was fantastic. It's like I got to meet a bunch of composers and producers, and because I didn't know anyone when I moved to Canada, so it was a great way of getting to meet people and getting opportunities, and that's kind of where it started, I guess, like in the way of like the progression of like getting into feature films and meeting people. And
okay, everything you have to say, I will unpack it and I will ask. By the way, how difficult? See, when you write music for yourself, right, you can have a track that is 7 minutes, 20 minutes, 2 minutes, and you don't care because of your music. But when somebody hired to do like a 3 minutes piece for how you can manage the time, how difficult is to write a particular scene, 30 seconds, when whatever horror movie or fiction or whatever, how difficult for you to take what you wrote and then concentrate in 30 seconds or 20 seconds for a sound editor to listen to stuff, review it, and make changes. Is it difficult in general, or?
Sorry, it's difficult to write
in the sense,
30 seconds?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that you write 3 minutes, right? And then you take it from 3 minutes to 30 seconds, and then, I don't know, a sound editor need to look at the stuff and then cut it even shorter, extend it, and sort of work for the director to be happy in that particular scene. How difficult is to write just 30-second piece of music when?
Yeah, I guess for film, if that's what, it can be tricky. I do actually, now when I think about it, writing smaller cues can definitely be trickier to write than a 3-minute piece, especially if it's something, and I guess it's based on the context of the film. So if there is a scene where it just needs something kind of small for a moment, but then it's like the in and out point of where that music starts without it being, kind of thrown in kind of thing. It's got to have like that. It's got to fit to the scene, and that's the part that is always quite tricky for a short piece, because I don't really know how to do that. Like, it's more of a trial and error thing, really. So, I do find I like writing bigger cues first, and then dissecting ideas from that into smaller cues. So, I don't know if that answers the question, but it is a trial and error process for sure. And it's like, some cues, I have written some cues for film, and it can be, like, they just work. It's just like a 30-second thing, and it's just like, yep, got it. But a lot of times I find the smaller cues are the most challenging ones. Like I remember working on Billy the Kid, and one cue, it took me a whole day, and it was only 15 seconds. And
Wow.
like, why is this so hard? It's just, it was a scene. It was, and the instrumentation I was trying to work with, and I think maybe I was overthinking it as well. So yeah, it is definitely a trial and error thing for sure. So you just got to, yeah.
Yep, I get you. I got that.
Yeah.
So you are originally from Sydney, Australia, and now based in Ontario, Canada. You are an award-winning composer for film and television. Good for you. So also you are an alumnus of the Canadian Film-Centered Music Residency Program chaired by Michael Dana, right? That's a famous guy. Yeah. And of course, you hold a certificate and screen music from the Australian Film Television, and then you have a bachelor degree from music in composition and so on and so forth. You end up, it was an accident or not that you end up, being kind of being whole into kind of horror, thriller genre or so, or it came by an accident? Because you could, I mean, I'm not a musician, but I suppose writing, if you are a keyboard player, right, and you like kind of electronic music, that's like a good match, because in particular horror movie film, they require that. But I suppose doing comedy or those sorts of how you were into in that particular genre, and you were how, and you wanted
that's
to
a very good question. Yeah, no, that's a great question, because I guess it was more to do with the path that when I started working on feature films, that my first feature was kind of like a crime thriller. And I love writing for crime thriller, and I love writing orchestral music. And but it was my second film that kind of got me more into the direction of horror. So the editor on the first feature film, which I worked on, Juggernaut, he actually he's also a director, and he just he wanted me to work on his film. And from that, his producer, he recommended me to do some other films, and they're all horror. So I kind of veered that direction just based on the opportunities that came my way. And I also just, when I think about horror, I love the fact that it's just unconventional. I love writing unconventionally. I love experimenting with sound, and I love, getting things from the kitchen and just recording stuff and sounds around the house. I live in a 200-year-old house, and we have creaks everywhere, and I love kind of incorporating those sounds, or the wood stove, or just, things that you wouldn't necessarily think are, musical in any way. It's just, I love sonic exploration. I guess that's the thing. It's just, and I guess that direction kind of really lured me into film, into horror. So it's but again, I do also love writing thematic music, lots of orchestral, and I love working with my synths, as you can see in the I've got so modulars is something that I generally like to work with, and I incorporate a lot with most of my film scores. I find that it's a great kind of starting point, like very. The thing is with record, and I'll do like say an hour or 2 hours of recording, just a pass of just different sounds, and it just takes me in a direction, and then sometimes I'll take a little snippet of something and then put it next to picture and be like, okay, that's what's working. So it's like finding those happy accidents, and it's a fun process. So yeah.
Okay. Whatever music is not used by the film or the director or whatever, you keep it for upcoming project, or if you want to do like a the deluxe edition, Michelle, best track of 2025.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. Everything is gold. Everything that I always keep something in my back pocket. So, especially based with film, like I find sometimes there's a lot of like quick turnarounds. Like we might have, a month or 3 weeks to write a full score. And I say we because I also work with my husband. We both co-score a lot of films together. Yeah. But we have a library that we keep, like a catalogue, and we have stems or like multi-tracks from projects that we've worked on, and sometimes we might incorporate that and just resample. We're all about like sampling and manipulating things, and I'll be like, oh, I remember that sound from that film, and I'll somehow might just process it a little bit and change things around, and it's a fun process for sure. So
how competitive your business for somebody, your sister or family member that asking you for advice on career? How competitive? So will you do it all over again, or is it hard to do?
Yeah, it is. It is definitely a very competitive field to get into, and I remember back at university at afters, the lecturer was like, don't get into film scoring while you're doing a film scoring course. It's just like, why, you shouldn't be saying that, but like, it's tough. You really have to it's all about hanging on and like just going with the flow. Like it did take a long time to get to where I am. Like I started in 2010, and I was doing a lot of free gigs, and but then again I was kind of like, okay, well, this is part and parcel of like getting to the place where I want to get to, and building my like my reel and trying to explore different genres as well. So I didn't think horror was going to be the direction I was going to work in at the time. I was really into comedy, which was, I can do comedy, but now I prefer not to do comedy. I definitely like writing horror. It's something that you just have to persevere with. If you have that dream, you got to just keep looking forward and don't look at the big picture. Just every day is just like it's baby steps. But then if you zoom out, you can see where you've come from and where you go, and that's just the way it works. It's just day by day.
Good for you. Yeah. Don't give it up. That's good. Do you listen to other composers' film score at all, or you think that the music may get into your head, and then when you're working a new piece, you can subconsciously take somebody else's stuff without stealing it, but
yeah,
or you prefer not to listen to music?
No, that's a very good question, because I do like inspiration. I do like hearing what people are doing, and I'm a big fan of like Bernard Herrmann and Thomas Newman, Mark, who I work with, Mark Corbin. I love the inspiration that I hear, and it makes me just want to get into the studio and start writing. And I don't like the idea of trying to sound like anyone. I want to have my sound, and that like feel the influences of the music that I might be like, oh, I like how Thomas Newman has these beautiful sweeping melodies, and I like I guess it depends as well on what you're writing, and if it's required to do something big and thematic for like 4 or 5 minutes, I will listen to Thomas Newman to kind of get some flow, the right flow, and then incorporate, think about how I would approach it. And yeah, I definitely do listen to a lot of music. I build playlists as well, and when I'm working on a project, I'll go through those tracks and try and incorporate. Like I'll pull little things from what they might have, but it's always I try to do my sound. So yeah.
Betcha.
Yeah.
And are you always able to manage like 2-3 projects at the same time? Like somebody call you, but I offer you the gig, but I need it by Friday. So if you can guarantee me that Friday, and you're working with that with Johnny Peter, and then Mary call you, and and you said, well, Monday or Tuesday I will work in this, and then for Peter Wednesday, Thursday, or whatever. In your head doesn't. How can you allocate chunk of your time to do this without interfering what you do? You need to do the day after. So is it difficult to do it?
So if they just in a quick turnaround.
Quick turnaround. I'm working many projects at the same time in your head, right? So.
Oh, right, yeah. So if you're working on multiple projects as well, that's difficult. But I find with film scoring, that's just how it is. There's so many overlaps, and I find the dates on contracts are never what they are. They just deadlines get pushed back, they get pushed forward. There will always be some conflict with festivals as well. Like you'll find that things get moved up, and you need to deliver a score in like 3 weeks instead of 8 weeks, which is ideal. And that's just part and parcel of it. You just have to be very flexible with your time, very flexible and quick and good. Yeah.
I got you in order to keep making a living. How many times in general you need to see like a movie or before you began formulating ideas of what the music you will compose, or versus somebody sending you on a script for you to read and say, okay, I will call you next week and tell me what you think, what kind of music.
Yeah.
It's obviously having a script versus, part of the movie are very different things, right? So, how
it's interesting. It is actually interesting that you, with script as well, because, for instance, like the first film I worked on, like the first feature film, Juggernaut, I actually worked off script, which is a totally different way to how I would work on film now. So I got the script and I started writing the score off the script. And it's not a normal process because you might get a cut of the film and you might start scoring. But that process was like, I had 8 months to try and mold something together, and then it started to develop. And it was kind of nice just because like I'd hear my music in the film as it was getting, from rough cut to locked cut. So it really kind of developed over that time. Whereas, felt like when I get a film, I will watch it a couple of times normally. And the first time is I prefer watching it without any temp music, because I find temp influences, it will go into my head and I'll start thinking about, what the director wants. But I also want to trust my instincts of where the score should sit. So I prefer listening to it the first time without score. And then, I'll make notes the second time and I'll be like, okay, this is where I feel like score should go. And then I might watch it a third time and I'll see what the director has for the temp score and see how that kind of aligns with what I have. And then we'll chat about the film after and be like, okay, well, I hear what you have here, but what do you think about score being in this moment and in this style, or like the shape or the pace or instrumentation? So that's how I would do it normally, is just watch it by myself a couple of times and make notes.
Then usually temp score, many directors from, I don't know, television, film, they will rent or have access to a library where they can use a different one of music before they hire you to write the music, so right? And then you get paid a license fee or whatever if they're using your music at the temporary. So have you been in a situation where I don't know, the director wants one thing and the producer wants something thing, and you're in the middle and people screaming?
Oh, I've been there. I have been there, and it's quite challenging because you just have to figure out a way to make everyone happy, and that is hard because it's the contradictory things that come up. It's just like, okay, so I might have a cue that is the director's like, I want something kind of minimal, and then the producers might chime in and say, actually, I feel like this needs to be kind of big and bombastic in this moment. So I provide both usually, just because I want them to see what works best, and they can discuss that. And and I'll also give them my feedback. I'll be like, you know what, like I tried both, and I feel like this direction works great. But I tend to leave it up to them to, I mean, it's their film, so I do like providing a couple of options for them. So if it ever gets to that point, but like it's not ideal, obviously, when you're, especially if you have a quick turnaround, and it's not ideal.
and the director telling you, don't listen to the composer. My film is my art. I don't care what he say. And the other guy say, no, it's my money. So I don't care what I need to record my investment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, it's not a fun process.
Do you in general? Do you
there's always like I think that's on every film.
Gotcha. Do you prefer, working with the same director? If you have, in the sense that they know your style, your turnaround, and how efficient.
That's actually a good question. I do in the way of, okay, so there's working with the same director, you've built that dialogue with them, so when they say a certain word, what they're after. You've gone through the process of spotting, you've kind of got into their heads of like, emotionally what they're looking for. And I find I don't necessarily need to do a spotting call with them the next time. And the spotting call is always kind of more about deciphering what they're after in the film. And when you're working with the same director, I find I haven't had to do a second, like a spotting call for the next project. So especially if it's in a similar kind of style, and unless it's something completely different, then I'll be like, it's probably a good idea just to hop on a call and discuss what you have in mind there. But then again, I do like working with new directors, because it's just like, every film you learn something from, and I find it's just a great process. You might learn something that they you're like, oh, I really like how they went about with the spotting ideas for this, and it's just like, I'm going to incorporate that for the next time, because we're always trying to learn each time we work on a project. So I guess it doesn't really answer your question if I like working with both, really. I like working with new directors and existing clients as well. So yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
And you say ideally you would like to have, I don't know, 6 weeks to write a bit of music, and sometimes, I don't know, 6 weeks they give you 3, and sometimes the guy call you Friday, hey, I give the job, I need this by Monday.
Yeah.
And send me an email. Otherwise, it's no.
So ideally, okay, it depends on how much music, and that's always a big thing, because like the quantity of work, what's involved. I do actually find if I have a very quick turnaround, I will co-score. I work with my husband quite a bit, and we both work on a lot of horror films. there's also another guy that I work with who sometimes it's a trio, and we just got such a great workflow, and that's great. So, but ideally, when I'm working I like 6 to 8 weeks. That's ideal. So series work, I would probably prefer working with another composer. There again, it's just because series work is it's very demanding with, you've got deadlines for networks, and it's a faster pace, where film is, you have, say, 8 weeks, but you can kind of choose your schedule, where you're kind of on call when you're working on a series. So, and working with another composer, that kind of just, makes the process a little bit more flexible for you. And especially if you have something else happening at that time as well. So if you have another project, it's like, that settles the workload.
I get you. I understand. I was looking to IMDb, and of course I knew some of your music, but what memory do you have for, I think Netflix Don't Move had been number network top 10 movies, and I hope they pay you well, because a lot of people have seen the movie. I don't know if you have royalties for that or that, but what memory do you have for Don't Move?
Yeah. So, with Don't Move, I actually worked with Mark Corvin, who he worked on like The Witch and Lighthouse, and that was our second project of co-scoring. So the first one was on Billy the Kid. So he called me and he brought me on to Don't Move. So that was, it was fantastic, because it was like my first big project, second big project, working with him as well. I really enjoyed the process. Like, if anything, I look at Mark as a mentor, and he really helped me kind of define the sound with him, and just, we got to be experimental with his palette, and we were working with apprehension engine and saxophone and hurdy-gurdy, and just, unique elements that he likes to use in his scores. So it was a really, really creative and fun process. And I mean, it's the same with all films, but that film particularly, like, I got to really roll up my sleeves and explore that world of sound a lot more. So and in the woods, it was like we got to work with like wood sounds, so we were playing around with like violins and like textural sounds and little plucks and piano knocks, and again, it's just about building those textures that suit the environment of the woods and forest, and so yeah.
Good for you. Another one. I think you have done 5 or 6 episodes of the MGM series of Billy the Kid. They keep on calling you back, which is good.
It's fantastic. So it's so Mark he did season 1, and he brought me on for season 2, and actually that was kind of an interesting process, because I was working in a different digital audio workstation. So I was originally in Cubase, and I had to relearn how to use Logic again, and I really threw myself into the deep end, figuring out the themes of the show that were already created, and learning, like, writing in this new DAW. So I ended up changing all of the key commands from Cubase and adding those into Logic. So I wouldn't, because you want to be on autopilot when you're creating. You don't want to be thinking about what's record and what's, those types of things. So that was really challenging. That part was just getting back into figuring out that workflow with Logic. And I work in Logic now. But yeah, like, working on Billy the Kid was that was a great step up as well for my career. I being on the calls, like the spotting calls, and on the calls we'd always have like the producers, and the editor was on the call as well, which was great. So we get feedback from everyone for playback, and we did spotting calls together. Mark and I would divide and conquer. So, we would take the cues that we were discussed on the call. The music editor would write out the spotting sheet, and then we would have a plan of like who's doing what cues, and we would discuss like with the music what we're internally what approach we're going to take on the cues, and yeah.
Okay. Another good one is I think it's T-Rex, the documentary. It's a great documentary.
T-Rex, yeah.
And
yeah,
it was easier, harder for you to do that as opposed to, I don't know, Billy the Kid or something.
Yeah, so with T-Rex, that was actually quite challenging in the sense that it was the first time I've worked with a live orchestra. So I've generally find with orchestral writing, I will write with good sample libraries, but never, I've never had the opportunity to work with a full orchestra. So I actually worked with Berlin Scoring Orchestra, and I think that's the name. And so I found that process to be quite challenging because I haven't done that before. So, and doing my own orchestrations, I actually hired an orchestrator to do some additional orchestration just to give me some advice with like when it came to like the physical capabilities of certain instruments, because like some of the stuff I was doing was just working in horror, I always like pushing things out of their boundaries, and I would say to the orchestrator, like, are these things kind of possible? And he'd be like, no. So I'd have to kind of dial them back and just be like, okay, well let's do some things that were just a little bit more in the realm of like what the orchestra can play. So and I kept all of the extreme kind of elements as MIDI. So it's kind of like a hybrid of MIDI and live in the score for T-Rex. And it was a really great experience, and I'd love to work with an orchestra again. Just
Good for you. Night of the Reaper is also a great score.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's a score by myself, Terry, my husband, and David Arcus. And that was so much fun because I got to play around with different synths, and like I love synths, and I really got to roll up my sleeves and explore sound. I've got this synth called the Syntrax, which is a replica of it's similar to a Synthi, which is an old, I think it's 80s or 70s synth. So it has very similar kind of components to that synth, but I've never actually used it in a score before, and it's quite, when you turn it on, it's quite big and gritty, and it's just like, okay, well, I feel like this is the type of film I can use this in, because there's moments in it that just require that dark, gritty, hard sound. And but yeah, so that was great to use that. And then again, I use my modulars to create some textures like in between my Voyager, which is right there. I use that usually for like bass sounds as well. So like it's usually like kind of more of a sub bass that I use that for. And but yeah, no, it was a lot of fun, and having some like Juno sounds, and Dave has got a big collection of like synths, and he was right into it, and Terry as well, like has a good collection of synths. So it was a fun score to work on, that for the three of us. Yeah.
I got you. How difficult is it to make a living as a film composer in general? I mean, you get course, everybody think, hey, Hans Zimmer get paid $1 million per movie or whatever he get paid, but of course, the other get paid and you get paid, it's, another
Yeah.
So,
it can be very lucrative, especially for the, for the royalties. Like sometimes the upfront fee might not be great, but if it's getting like so many, the back end can really start to pay off. And I also worked on, like years ago, I worked on a lot of like libraries, and I'm noticing that some of those payments are just rolling through every. And I used to watch when I was a kid, Home and Away in Birds. Like, oh, my track's on that show, which is cool. So, and yeah, like I find the royalties is a good extra income for, if things do slow down, and they do, I'm not always working I mean, I have times where it's just, I might be working on 3 or 4 projects at the same time, but then it's quiet for 6 months, and, you have to, that's when I'm like, okay, well, I have to be very smart with my money because this is the job. This is my only job. I don't have any other job. So,
you don't teach at all, or
No, I tried teaching, and I actually don't mind. Like mentoring is something I enjoy doing. But teaching piano, I taught piano years ago, and I didn't really enjoy it. I have to be honest, it wasn't for me. So yeah. So yeah.
What are you working nowadays? If you could tell me.
Well, I do have a film that's under NDA, so I can't disclose too much information about it. But my husband and I are working on it. So the film is a art house horror, and it's quite interesting, the score, because we're working with vocals, and I've never actually worked with vocals in a film score before, and it's like one of the main components of the score. And it's very kind of like dissonant and atonal, but it's also it's got a lot of like textures again, lots of like, we're set in this area in like the Badlands. That's probably all I'm going to say about where it is, but like it's so creating the environment, it's very sparse and barren, and playing around with elements that kind of replicate the environment, and we're doing something pretty eclectic. So I actually I've got a recording done by someone who plays the Holdorophone, which is the instrument that Hilda uses. That's her one of her instruments. So it was really, really kind of great to get that recorded. And then I bought this instrument called an MPA 23, and it's kind of like a horror box. It's got half a cymbal on it. It's got some rails, like little spokes, kind of like the apprehension engine. And then it's got the daxophone, which is this wooden part which you bow, and it sounds a little bit like voices depending on how it's bowed. It's a very interesting sound. So we've sampled that quite a bit, and I have a feeling it's like we've only just started working on it, but it's going to be a very unique score for sure. So yeah,
right. I'm looking forward to hearing that.
Yeah.
Talking to you, you're doing great. Keep on working and keep on saving money just in case.
Yeah.
Oh, we gotta do.
Great chatting with you too.
Stuff. So, but you're doing great, and your husband, I know that he works with you. He's a well-known guy as well. It was very nice talking to you, and keep me posted with a coming project. I'm quite sure we can do a follow-up interview when you have some new work. I'm happy to help out in in any way I can with another interview or promoting your work, whatever. Feel free to give me a call, give me a ring, and let me know if anything I can do to help you guys out.
Yeah. Thanks, Claudia. It was great chatting with you too. And I would love a follow-up for sure. That'd be great. So
thank you much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Cool. Have a great day.
You too.